All right, everyone, welcome back to our Realm of Reality, episode number 4. And tonight we have a treat for you because the Earl of Florida and myself, Lord Cephas, are going to give you our top 5 movie guilty pleasures. Now, just to set some ground rules and clarify what that means everybody can't love it. That means it cannot be a cult classic, whatever that means, because 3 people liked it. This has to be something that most people look at and go, that's awful. How can you even watch that thing? And so that's our criteria. Very simple. Can't be loved by everybody. Can't have a massive underground following. It's just got to be something you're like, I should be ashamed to admit I like this because everyone else is ashamed to admit it, but I will own it. So Earl, I'm going to give you the first opportunity. What is your number 5 guilty pleasure?
I want you to follow me back. It's
Let's go.
1991.
I'm there.
Bruce Willis had hair, and he was not afraid to sing. Let me introduce you to Hudson Hawk. It was. Okay, he was a cat burglar who just got out of jail, and so he was forced into stealing some things from the bad guys. And instead of using a timer or a watch to do so, they sing while they stole things to keep tune and to keep time to know how long they had, and some of the villains in it were given code names like Kit Kat, Butterfingers, things like that. And it was a wonderfully bad movie that I every time it comes on, I clip it on, and some of my favorite lines are, "It had the perfect amount of foam," or "A bunny ball." None of you are going to understand this until you watch the movie, and it's ridiculous. You got Cobra in it, you got Andy McDowell, obviously Bruce Willis, you got Mr. CSI Miami, I think was in that in it as well. Caruso was also in it. I mean, there's just a lot of you know what? Don't judge me. It was hilarious. It's bad. I don't want to admit it, but I will. And whenever I catch it on, I sing it and I watch it, and it's wonderful. Hudson Hawk all the way. You ever see it?
Nope.
You
But
should.
but but here's a guilty pleasure related to that. I played the NES video game because they actually had an NES game that came out in conjunction with the movie. I had no idea what I was even trying to do, but I played it. I rented it at the video store. Yes, I did. So I do have an unfortunate tie to your number 5. So it's my turn. I'm going to take you back in the Wayback Machine to when I was younger, when the Earth was still cooling and everything was in black and white because no one had colorized the world. I'm taking you back to 1986. Specifically, there was a production company called Golan Globus. That may not mean anything to anyone, but they were 2 businessmen from Israel who wanted to be in the movie business. Cool. And they formed a company, and they had something called Canon Films. Canon Films has produced a number of movies, a number of hits actually in the 80s. And so what I'm going to reference tonight was not one of them. It was a movie released by Canon Films, but it was more like Canon fodder. And the movie I've chosen is 1986's Thunder Run. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is Thunder Run? Well, in brief, we are moving radioactive materials, plutonium, and they keep getting intercepted by bad guys. We don't really know who the bad guys are, but they're bad, and they were what maybe Russian or Nicaraguan. I'll just make up a name. Uniforms. So they keep intercepting people who are trying to steal the plutonium and these materials, right? So there's an old fella who has a truck, a rig that he calls Thunder, right? They basically say, hey, we need you to take this material from this place to the military installation. Now, we know that's going to draw the bad guys out, and in this case, bad girls too. But we want you to do that. And when you get there, we're going to give you $250,000 tax free. So what they do is they spend the first part of the movie getting Thunder ready to run, right? No pun intended. They take Thunder out on the road. It's an older gentleman. Forrest Tucker was the actor who played in that. He finds out his grandson stowed away aboard, and he doesn't have time to turn around and go back or let him off in the middle of nowhere. So they go on a ride and adventure where they are attacked by all different types of vehicles, motorcyclists, BW bugs with rockets attached to the top, which is tremendous. There's all kinds of things there, including there is a work zone operation. There are flaggers involved. They actually jump a railroad crossing with the semi truck. I kid you not, and stick the landing, which is very darn impressive. It's just awful, but I watch it every couple of weeks, or at least parts of it. Be like, I just need to remind myself of how much I really liked this movie when I was a kid. Spoiler alert, they make it to the military installation. Turns out the guy who hired him for the government was actually behind all the thefts, and so they figure that out. The FBI arrests him. By the way, what's funny, not until they get there and almost die does the FBI come rolling up. Yep, you were right. Like, where were you? We were watching. We figured you had it under control. Literally, that was the FBI's attitude in the movie. So they get the money. It's tax-free. They go home, live a good life, whatever. Thunder Run, my number 5, guilty pleasure. Earl, what do you got for number 4?
Well, it's hard to top that, but I'm going to just go back a few years to 2016.
Okay.
This is a movie that I don't like admitting to liking and watching, just because there's so much wrong with it. First of all, I'll just throw it out there. Gods of Egypt.
Interesting. All right. Make your case.
Well, first of all, you have Gerard Butler playing one of the Egyptian gods, and so you've got a Scottish guy playing an Egyptian god.
Okay.
There's
There's no cultural appropriation there. It's fine.
You've got Coster Waldau, who is what, Swedish, I think he is.
Okay.
He's playing one of the gods. You've got Geoffrey Rush playing one of the gods. You've got the late great Chadwick Boseman playing one of the gods, which works.
Nice.
But so there's all this. Then you have Brenton Thwaites, I think is how you pronounce it. He's the Nightwing character off of Titans.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the main stars. So you have the gods are fighting. Gerard Butler's character, his god Set, takes out Osiris, takes his eye, and or Horus takes out his eye, and so you have the star of Game of Thrones is sulking because he's only got one eye left, and the skull is Gerard Butler, who does a few times slip into his natural brogue a few times, which is it's just awesome.
It happens.
It's horrible and it's awesome. So the whole premise of the story is a horse teams up with a human thief in order to reclaim his eye, save the human girl who died, her soul, and take out Set so he can climb back to the Pantheon and save the people of Egypt from Set's evil rule. That's the premise of the story. I mean, it's so bad. It's so sad. But I'm like, I just can't stop watching the train wreck that is. I love, if they had completely done a different, like a created mythology that wasn't Egypt, this could have worked. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they had blonde hair, blue eyed Osiris and Geoffrey Rush as, it's just, or Horus and Osiris, and then you have a Scottish Set. It's just it was painfully bad, but I can't stop watching. It pops up on the free channels all the time, and I'm like, oh, this looks painful. I must watch it again. Oh Lord, I can't.
All right.
I'm sorry.
See, the Earl has spilled his guts, and it was not a pretty sight. All right, I'm going to give you my number. I'm going to give you my number 4. And I'm gonna give you my number 4, and this one was a big budget production, but it was terrible. I'm gonna take you back in the Google machine to a movie known as The Day After Tomorrow.
Ooh.
That was high dollar garbage. Hot, steaming, 95 degrees outside on asphalt. Hot garbage. And yet, I watched it with Lady Cephas the other night, all the way through. And yet I knew it was hot garbage, but I could not stop watching because I'm like, it's terrible, but sometimes I need a little terrible in my life. Dennis Quaid, I think, did an okay job acting. Um, Dennis Quaid, not a great actor, at least not in that one, but he did the role okay.
Yeah.
You had Jake Gyllenhaal, who was his son, who's hiding out in a New York City library because everything is cold. But apparently, putting a fire in the fireplace will keep ice from coming through the door. I
Or
don't
the
understand.
chimney.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Why, then there's the end. There's the whole political message of, well, you know what? We shouldn't have had any separation. We'll just all go to Mexico. And I'm like, did Mexico say that was okay? No, we just started rolling up on their border, like, hey, we're here. Just thought you'd like to know. Isn't that what got us in trouble before with other countries? Is like rolling. Yeah, we'll take that. So my number 4 is The Day After Tomorrow. If it comes on, I will watch it, but I fully admit it's awful, awful with a
I
capital
gotta.
off.
I do love Ian Holm. With his two little buddies having their little sip as they know they're going to freeze to death.
Okay,
And
that was one of those guys was actually in Hustle, which was an AMC series that I liked very much. But please continue.
yeah, and Sheila Ward, she doesn't age. She still looks the same.
Yeah, she does. God bless him.
As the mother, and Emmy Rosen was also the girlfriend of and all of that.
That
And hey, anything that gives you CGI wolves and a giant it threw back thoughts of a pirate ship as it busts through the ice into Manhattan.
I mean, okay, if you're going to go bad, go all the way, I suppose.
Yeah, and then what could only be called like ice twisters, maybe they weren't tornadoes, but they were funnels of your aforementioned ice that froze people like the Neanderthals right in their path. But
Well, I hate to tell you, but Ice Twisters was a sci-fi movie that I could have selected, but I did not.
so I can't say anything bad about this one because I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, okay, we had a little bit of agreement there. Earl, can you give me your number 3, please?
My number 3 also came out in 2016. There's a trend there. It was starring Matt Damon and soon to be Mandalorian, as well as William Dafoe. Pedro Pascal, William Dafoe also started it, called The Great Wall. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope. I feel like I hit a wall with that one. What tell me about it.
Okay, so it's completely fictionalized. Now it's kind of like it might borrow some history from Genghis Khan and the Silk Road. So you have these Europeans who are coming to pretty much trying to get gunpowder from the Chinese dynasty. And when the group starts getting picked off by these monsters, they manage to kill a monster. It's some kind of like reptilian, nightmarish creature. They were taken in, and come to find out that the Great Wall of China was built for one purpose, because there are monsters that wake up from deep in the earth and they come out in droves and throw themselves onto the Great Wall, trying to go over the Great Wall in order to get to the populations that they can eat and consume. And the problem is they get thrown back and killed, so they have to go back in hibernation and build up the numbers to do it again. Well, this time they've gotten sneakier and they're attacking. So only because Matt Damon and Pedro Pascal are they able to fight them off and manage to figure out a way to save the world. I can't stop watching it every time it comes on. Okay, if you remember from a few Midnight Magic musings ago, I mark out for all thing Robin Hood.
Yes.
So in this, you have Matt Damon and his mastery of the bow and arrow. So that might have a large bit of it that's got me like watching it because he's doing trick shots. He's taking broken bows and ripping them and turning them to, better bows and, firing off of the shield and hitting these things and putting explosives on them. It's like the Green Arrow in, 700 BC or 80 or whatever time period. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And Pedro Pascal plays the nice little smuggler, bad guy, good guy. Slimy kind of feel to him. He's in it for himself, but he kind of has a heart. So he's a step below Han Solo. He does it very well, kind of like Lando Calrissian-esque style. And it's just ridiculous. And they're monsters, and you're not having to think about anything. You can mute it and just watch the madness that it is. And I'm unrepentant. The Great Wall. Check it out. You can watch it, and it doesn't matter. It's a bad movie. You don't even have to listen to the words. You know what's happening. You know what the premise is going through. You know exactly what's going to happen because you can guess what's going to happen, and it happens. But you still watch it, and you're like, worth it. You wasted 2.5 hours of your life, but you know what? Worth it. And I do it again. I do it too repetitively, so I don't want to admit it too much. You've never seen it, so you can't. You can't judge me, sir. You don't have the right to judge me on this. Okay, Matt Damon with a man bun ponytail that people are like, "Oh, Matt Damon with a ponytail." I'm like, it's not real, but okay. I wasn't like that. I was just pointing out things that was mentioned in my hearing about Matt Damon's ponytail and his man bun. Not me. I would not do that. I am throwing it off to you. So what do you think of the Great Wall? And if you have no thoughts, what's your next one?
I have no thoughts on the Great Wall, or the monsters apparently come out and feed on the people. All right, my number 3 is way back in the Google machine. We go to 1987. There is an obscure independent film that was a quote thriller called Rotor, Rotor. The short of it is the US government has been developing cybernetic technology. No, not the Terminator. No. They have a law enforcement cybernetic robot who will enforce crime. Now he's covered with an exoskeleton that's then covered with human skin, so he looks human, but he's not. He walks slowly, kind of sludges when he walks. Something goes wrong in his programming, and instead of arresting people for traffic stops, he just starts offing people over speeding violations or failure to yield or whatever, right? So they have to get the guy who helped build him and a brilliant professor to go stop him. He kills the brilliant professor. Eventually, they're able to realize that he doesn't like loud sounds. They lay on the horns to kind of mess with his head. And then they basically tie his arms and legs up to vehicles and pull at the same time. You say, well, that's just going to pull his arms and legs off. No. In this case, it led to an explosion. And that is how they defeated Rotor. He exploded. Yes. So the kicker of it all is at the end of the movie, the government official who helped build him was walking across just walking across a random area and get shot in the back by another government official. And apparently the way it was written, it was like that guy deserved it. And that was literally the end of the movie. And by the way, honorable mention for really terrible scenes. Guy walks into a convenience store. He sees the convenience store getting held up. He has a weapon. He gets a newspaper, puts the newspaper over said weapon, walking around like that. He's like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? He's like, what are you going to do? Hurt me with the newspaper? And he says, and I quote, Trey, Earl, oh, I've got more than a newspaper. And you get to guess what it is. Removes the newspaper and shoots. And it's like so awful, but you know what? One of the best things I've ever seen. To this day, it has affected me, infected me. Just a miserable, terrible movie. I don't think it was ever put on DVD. It was on VHS back in the day. God, it's just terrible. And they actually had plans to make a Rotor 2 based on the female scientist that helped him. She was like really muscle bound. So they were going to make a Rotor 2 based on her. But tragically, Rotor 2 never took place. We will never get to know the continuing story of the government's program to develop AI who can fight crime. However, timely in the world in which we live today. So Rotor is number 3 for me. Earl, number 2.
Number 2 is a really it's one of the top, if not the biggest flop in history. Um, it came from Disney, and we're talking 11 years ago, 2012, John Carter.
Oh, are we really going to do this? Okay, go ahead.
So that's fiery. I read the books. I was a fan of the books were free to read because of how old they are. So I was a fan of the books. I enjoyed the books. They were goofy, whatever. Now, going in and watching this movie, it had been quite some time since I'd seen the book. So since I read the books, and I wasn't going in looking at a completely reliable translation of the older books. And I knew that there was a very good chance this movie was going to be absolutely horrible because I didn't really have faith in it being translated properly. So I went into this movie expecting nothing good, and I got some great CGI. I got to see William Dafoe as another little sidekick green creature. You got to see, it was a lot of fun. The short version is John Carter is a human from Earth who got transported to Mars. He's stronger and faster, can jump higher than everybody on Mars on Barashoom. And the short story is he rescues the princess, saves the people that are fighting, and for the movie, that's where it ends off as they get married. But there's several books to it, and they were wanting this to be a massive franchise. They wanted this to go on and on in perpetuity, and it ended up losing like I don't know, $200 million or something like that. And it was really a big misfire. That was one of the two big things that destroyed Taylor Kiff's career for a little while, got him blacklisted. Also starred Lynn Collins, and Mark Strong was in it. Like I said, William Dafoe, James McAvoy. So I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. It was fun. If you go in not expecting anything, it's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie, and it's got just enough special effects and humor to. I think you know what, my kids watched this with me. My younger ones absolutely loved it, and maybe I need to get them checked for their IQs. I don't know, but all I know is that they enjoyed it. I love them to death. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm forcing them to watch bad things, and now they love bad things, and I should be ashamed, but I'm not. But I watch this, and I'll probably end up watching it again in the near future now that I've been reminded of it. Come on, tell me, did you ever watch John Carter?
No, I was completely turned off by the trailer and the subject matter. It looked ridiculous to me, and therefore I never partook in said John Carterisms during that period of time or in the period of time since.
Check it out.
I'll check it out one day. It'll be on my list. It's a long list, but it'll be on my list.
But I mean,
Right.
I think it's just if you don't go in expecting a whole lot, and I think you'll find it humorous, and you may never watch it again, but it's not going to make you go out and play wrestling roulette or anything like that, or dance in traffic.
Well, that's good to know.
Probably not.
Yeah, that's not really in the cards. I'm gonna give you my number 2. We're going in the way back machine a long way. We're going to 1979. It is a sci-fi epic known as Laser Blast. You have this teenage boy who is a loner, comes across a laser cannon and an alien pendant, and it transforms him into this hideous thing who just goes around apparently just taking things out on everybody, trying to kill people. It's terrible. There's some stop animation in it. That tells you the kind of movie we're dealing with here, which stop animation wasn't really bad. Actually, it's pretty decent for what the movie was. The point of the movie is he ends up getting shot from the top of the building by an alien who returned to get the laser cannon, therefore destroying the cannon, the pendant, and apparently the young teenager too. And that was literally the end. So he found it, became a terror, and then the aliens come back and stopped him from being a terror. Consistently, it ranks as one of the worst rated movies of all time. And yeah, I saw the whole thing back in the day of USA Up All Night. I can attest it was bad. And to clarify, what I mean bad, I mean atrocious. And by atrocious, it wasn't even cringeworthy. You couldn't even put in that much effort. It was run worthy, run the other way. And it was about as exciting as I just described it. It's just terrible from start to finish. And so that is my number 2, Laser Blast.
Okay. So you're prepared for my final one?
I don't know. Let's see.
Well, I have 3 honorable mentions. I would love to throw love out there for I Come in Peace, the Dolph Lundgren,
Ooh.
Guyver with Animal, and Fire with Michael Puri, Rick Moranis, Diane Lane, and William Dafoe. A very young, very pale William Dafoe. Great movie. Check it out. I absolutely love it. But for me, this movie you have to search for and look for, and sometimes you can find it on YouTube, sometimes you can't. Otherwise, you can't. And it is a movie that we have both seen. I wore it out when I was on VHS, called Scavenger Hunt.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I wondered if you'd say something about that.
Now, Scavenger Hunt is exactly what it says. Think of it like they did a movie not too long ago with a Cuba Gooding Jr. where and Mr. Bean was in it, where somebody rich died and whoever managed to get to the end won. Well, in this, the scavenger hunters, they had to collect certain clues that the scavenger hunt asked and take it back and put it in their fence. Whoever got the most would win the money. And it was just so full of ridiculousness. You have Dirk Benedict from Battlestar Galactica. You've got Meatloaf, who's in it as one of the motorcycle gang. I think it was the motorcycle gang leader. Name. Obviously, you have to have Roddy McDowell's in it. You also have a young Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Lars, the guy he threw. You know what? I'm not going to tell you any more about it. Watch it. It's ridiculous. It's fun. It's clean. It's amusing. You'll make you laugh. And check it out. Try to find it. It's hilarious. You won't regret it. Vincent Price was in it. I mean, it's Lord Cephas, you watch this. How
I watched it. I watched it, but yeah, I watched it a bunch of times as a kid. I thought it was fun. When they're trying to add up the points and they're claiming double tabulation.
at the down.
Right. Now, as a kid, I didn't know what tabulation was. I just thought that was funny for reasons I don't know why, but double tabulation just sounds fun to hear somebody with a British accent try and say, and they did that in the movie at the end. You had the woman who saved Dirk Benedict's character and the other guy with brass knucks because they were getting beat up as kids. There's so many just things you just can't even. All right.
You have to watch it. All right, Lord, hit us with your big number 1.
Going back to the VHS era, going back to the mid 80s, something I saw in the movie theaters, something I have watched many times on VHS. Before I give you that, I'm going to give you my honorable mentions. I'm going to say The Siege of Firebase Gloria, which I don't think anybody saw but me. It starred the fellow from Mail Call. Remember the gunnery sergeant who was, he was the star of it. One of the few times he's in a serious role starring. And it had a Rutger Hauer was in it as well as his second in command. And basically they were holding Firebase Gloria against the Viet Cong. And that was the whole movie. And then eventually the movie ends, right? Where pretty much everybody gets wiped out. I thought it was really, really good, but apparently nobody else liked it. Other honorable mentions, Captain America, the one with Ronnie Cox. Yes, that one. It's Captain America with wings on his on the top of his head, and a motorcycle, which was pretty awesome, by the way. I think those are the ones I would say are the most honorable mention. I wanted to say the Fantastic Four movie that used to not be able to find. It was the Roger Corman version. In the early 2000, in the early 90s. Eventually everybody got to see it. Um, I will not say the Star Wars Christmas special because even I have limits to what I'll like. Here's the one I selected though. And Earl, I believe you've seen this. You can sit up straight for this so I can say it with conviction. My number one guilty pleasure of all time. Follow That Bird. Yep. For those who don't know, Follow That Bird was a movie based on he's gone. He's not coming back out of the Sesame Street franchise. Okay. And basically, Big Bird runs away. And so all the characters have to find where he's gone. There's so many good lines from this movie. You have Bert and Ernie who are flying in a crop duster. And Bert is in the back, or Bert's flying in the front, Ernie's in the back. And he asks him, Bert, do you know what color Big Bird is? Because he can't hear him because he's flying. He's like, what? He's yellow. And you hear Ernie like he would do. And it's just so ridiculous and good. And then he lost his bottle cap collection when they flipped the plane upside down. It was just so good. But the highlight for me, Waylon Jennings appears in that movie, the musician who was also the balladeer for Dukes of Hazzard, singing There Ain't No Road Too Long. Ain't no mountain we can't climb if we just get up and just make up our mind. I mean, it's a classic song in a long forgotten piece of children's what did they it was a children's television workshop. That's what it was. So Earl, that is my number one guilty pleasure is I still would sit and watch Follow That Bird.
The Pee-wee's Playhouse or whatever.
Nope.
The movie,
Nope.
know,
Nope. Didn't like it. Nope. 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 Nope.
I'm just,
Nope.
Big Bird didn't stay yellow in that movie. I can tell you that.
Well, he was the bluebird of happiness, but he was really quite sad, honestly.
Well, with that, I don't know what to say. I literally, I don't. You got me. I have nothing.
It's
No
not
question.
often. It's not often I leave the Earl speechless, but in this particular episode, Realm of Reality number 4, this is history, folks. Write it down, make a note. The Earl was left speechless because I had the best number one guilty pleasure ever seen. All right, everyone. Well, the Earl has left us because he can no longer take what I just dished out. So, on behalf of the now exited from your picture, Earl of Florida, I am the Lord Cephas. We want to thank you for listening. We want to thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share this thing out. Click that notification bell so that you get all of our most updated content. If you liked what we had to say, leave us a comment. If you didn't like what we have to say, we do appreciate you staying with us and listening to it. And go ahead and leave us a comment as well. We would greatly appreciate it. For the Earl of Florida, I am Lord Cephas, who is apparently very, very saddened now. So long, everybody.